Starting a new job is stressful enough, but add a cantankerous employee, toxic board, and a dead body, and you have a recipe for disaster. Agatha Award-winning author Daphne Silver joins us today to talk about Telltale Homicide, book two in a rare book cozy mystery series. Welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews. I'm Sharon Lynn, and welcome to you, Daphne.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I'm absolutely just honored to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
Well, I absolutely love your books. They're so much fun. And just kind of want to jump into this. You have a naming convention that your main character's family uses. So she is Juniper Bloom, Blume. Tell me how you came up with that.
I'm not, I wish I had a better answer for you to be like, oh, I was inspired by this. But in my head, as many times as the story has changed or evolved throughout the years, it was always about these two sisters, Juniper and Azalea. That was a constant,
Mhm.
the two of them, and so it made sense that everyone connected around them in their family would then also carry this tradition, this botanical love just embedded in them. And so I wish I could tell you Juniper came from a visit to the Chesapeake Bay and a store that was selling, but there's sometimes characters develop a life of their own,
Oh, yes.
and that was something that happened here, that these two sisters, and the story has gone through various iterations in my head over the years, but they have always been Juniper and Azalea. So
Well, that first off is a wonderful answer. That's just that is fantastic. And I did want to ask about their relationship because I have a sister, and just the you're driving me crazy. Oh, I love you. Can I help? The back and forth with that is just so spot on and so perfect. And I'm wondering if you have siblings that you base this on, or are you just intuitive?
well, I do have a younger brother. So I'm the older one in this case. I've always, when I was a kid, I always wanted a sister. I always used to daydream about having lots of sisters and going on grand adventures together. And so I think there must be something, um, you know, that resonated from there. But the sibling relationship, I certainly am very well attuned to.
Well,
having my brother who I love dearly. So mhm.
well, it definitely comes across with the two sisters, and yes, that's just. I think my sister spent most of my childhood wishing she did not have a sister. So, I think it's whatever you have, you want the other.
I think you're spot on. I am sure the fantasy in my head of the sister best friends was exactly that, a fantasy.
Although sometimes, like my nieces are like that. They just are
Oh,
best friends, and I'm like,
yeah.
wow, I didn't have that. We're best friends now, but it took a while. Um, so I love the setting of Mallow. It is very intriguing. It's on the Chesapeake Bay, and it's this gorgeous, beautiful setting, but the town has fallen on hard times. And so I'm wondering if it was based on a real place or a conglomeration of places.
That it is. It is a conglomeration of a couple of places that truly exist on the the western side of the Chesapeake Bay. Um, and they include places like Chesapeake Beach and North Beach, as well as a little further south, a bit of Solomon's Island, which is right on the tip of the southern part there. And so they inspired me with their breathtaking views of the Chesapeake Bay. The two towns, North Beach and Chesapeake Beach, are linked by a common boardwalk along the towns. And on the North Beach side, there are shops along that, whereas on the Chesapeake Beach side, there's more backing up into homes. And so that geography very much inspired me. And the towns were indeed resort towns that, 100, 125 years ago were places that people escaping, the heat of Baltimore in the summer would
Mhm.
go to, either by train or by ferry. And I'm not sure that either of the towns, I don't know their economic situation now, but they are very charming and quaint. And and so just thinking about what that might be, a former resort town that's kind of trying to rebuild and figure out its next steps, was very inspirational to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and that's the thing about the East Coast is there's so many little nooks and crannies and beaches and things like that.
Right.
I'm used to Southern California. It's like, yeah, it's straight. And if there's a beach there, there's a resort there. That's just
Right. Uh-huh.
there
Yeah.
are no hidden lost treasures anywhere. It's just like you can see it. It's yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I love that.
Um, let's see. Juniper is a rare books specialist, lending the name to your series. And she was an employee at the Library of Congress. And then in this book, she is starting out with a private collection.
Yes.
And why did you choose this background for your main character?
Well, so it is in a way a conglomeration of my own background and my husband's background. He's a librarian, he's a public librarian, so not working at a place like the Library of Congress, but whereas most of my career has been in museums
Okay.
and history museums. And so to me, the rare books world is sort of a place where those two things intersect.
Yeah.
And being a book lover myself, it just made a lot of sense to me for this series to be exploring the history of books, and figured there would be an instant connection, hopefully for readers as well. So, but having Juniper focus on her life now in Rosemallow. She couldn't stay working at the Library of Congress all the way up in DC. So it had to find some new avenues for her to use her expertise, not just when she's being an investigator, but professionally down in this small town. And so had to get a little creative.
Worked very well, totally believable. And yeah, as far as that instant connection goes with your readers, I had actually just gotten back from Ireland when I read Crime and
Ooh,
Parchment. So I'm like,
yeah.
oh, it's a book of Kel's story. I was just
Oh, fabulous. I
and
love
then I'm reading Telltale Homicide, which of course the title right away was again, oh yay. And it's as we're filming this, it is October, so it's just like the perfect time for a Poe kind of connection into a story. So what is your favorite Poe, either story, book?
Mhm. So my favorite is actually Poe's Mask of the Red Death. But the reason it's my favorite is less to do with the story, which is wonderful. It's a fantastic story. I love so many of his, the Cask of Amontillado, the Pit and the Pendulum, of course, the Telltale Heart, the Gold Bug, which features prominently in here. But is because actually when I got engaged to my now husband of many years, the librarian, he gave me engagement ring, and I felt that it was only appropriate to give him something in return, and actually gave him or us, first edition of Graham's magazine, which we say magazine, but it's actually a thick bound book.
More like a graphic novel kind of binding.
It included, yeah, included all sorts of stories and illustrations and things, but it also includes then the first issue of the first edition of The Mask of the Red Death. And because we were living in Baltimore at that time, and with our love of books and history, and that connection to Baltimore, it just felt like inappropriate. So I it does have then a deep sentimental value to me as a result.
Well, that is wonderful. Yeah, I liked that you even snuck Berenice, if that's how you say that, in there.
Oh,
I
I'm not sure how it's pronounced. You see words written, and then is it Berenice? Is it Berenice? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I actually use that one in my scene and lighting design class, and I read it out loud to my
Mhm.
students. And yeah, it's so.
They're so good.
Yeah, it just has to be read out loud. It just has that magical.
We
Love
just went to a Poe festival in Baltimore, and there was a performer who did the Black Cat. And you're right, just bringing it to life. Um, there's something about reading the story, but there's something transcendent about hearing it. And so the level of spookiness and eeriness
Well,
that
and
an
the way he just weaved words together, it's like the sad
oh,
uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. That is just it's so good.
so good. So good. Mhm.
Yeah, one of my favorite Simpsons ever is the Halloween episode where James Earl Jones reads The Raven, except
Mm.
except when Homer's voice does the dialogue parts. And it's such a massive contrast. James Earl Jones' beautiful voice, and then Homer going, "Take thy beak from out thy heart." So yeah,
I know
just
exactly which episode you're talking about.
yeah, just brilliant.
No,
Um,
I love it. I hadn't
um,
thought about that in years, but yeah.
okay, so Juniper has a rescue dog named Clover,
Yeah.
who is just a delight in the story. Always just really just her 4-year-old niece and Clover, just this dynamic duo, creating chaos wherever they go. So why did you choose a rescue dog for Juniper? And what was her motivation her motivation to get in?
Well, it's so we had a dog, Echo, who was a little white rescue dog. Unfortunately, Echo's life before we adopted him must have been very difficult. And so he came to us, this was quite a while ago, but with a lot of fear and unfortunately aggression. And when Echo passed, um, I don't know. I rewrote into Clover to kind of give Echo that life that he always deserved. That if he had had that love and care from the get-go, I would love to believe that he wouldn't have had those issues. Of course, I don't know, but at least in Clover, I could give him a second chance and just to be the playful puppy he always deserved to be. So,
Oh, that
yeah,
is lovely.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hmm. So Juniper, your main character, is staying with Azalea, her sister, at an inn, and Azalea spends a lot of time in the kitchen, which I absolutely love, and she's recreating their grandmother's recipes.
Yes.
This one spends a lot of time on blintzes, and which just kind of makes my mouth water while I'm reading.
So blintzes are so good.
And I know you have a website with some of these recipes on there.
Yeah.
There's a strong the recipes tend to be Jewish, and I'm just
Yes.
kind of wondering what your inspiration was for these recipes. Did you have a
Sure.
grandmother baking?
Um, so, first of all, I need to preface this. I am not a cook. I am much more, or a baker. I'm much more like Juniper. I'm happy to eat other people's creation. And my secret weapon is actually a friend of mine who tests out my recipes for me because I don't trust myself to do them. Um, to make sure that what I'm putting up there, and we're working on a blintz recipe, so it'll be going up there soon, if not already. And so that's in process. But yes, no, being raised Jewish, even in a secular Jewish, culturally Jewish household, um, food is such a critical part of the heritage, and so things have been passed down. I remember when I got engaged, I was actually working back then at the Jewish Museum of Maryland, and one of my colleagues, as a present, um, unbeknownst to me entirely, actually connected with several of my family members and put together a recipe book from colleagues and my from my parents and aunts and uncles. Like it's a really treasured piece. Now, I can't say that all the recipes that are on my website necessarily translate exactly. It's not a one-to-one, but there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of inspiration there.
Oh, what a wonderful gift. I mean,
Really,
wow.
yeah, it really, really is. And yeah, I treasured that piece very much so. Mhm.
Oh, that's amazing. Um, all right, so this is a silly question, but I like it because I have someone in mind. If you were to have this as a series, which by the way, it would make a wonderful series for anybody out there listening. If you were to cast Leo, who is
Yeah.
Juniper's trying not to be love interest, who would you cast?
Really miserably. I I am, oh my gosh, there are so many potential actors. You know, so think of somebody who is tall with dark hair. He also has a shock of silver. Like back oh, Jiminy Cricket. Who was the Grey's Anatomy actor that Meredith was with? Dr. Dreamy, Dr.
Dreamy or
Steamy.
steamy?
Yeah. Um, yeah, what
Oh,
his name is
there
escaping
was
me.
Patrick Dempsey. I don't
That's the
remember the
one.
name.
Yeah, like a young Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah.
It's so someone like that. I'm sure there are younger actors out there today who would be, but that's kind of who would be the physique in my head
Hmm.
of who it will look like. But I would be curious to hear from readers who shows up in their minds, if that fits, or if they're like, no, 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 it is obviously this
Well,
person. You are
it's
wrong,
it's
author.
it's the dimples. That's what I immediately thought of the kid in the Twisters, the new Twister movie.
Oh, is that the what? It's his name, Glenn Powell.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
he's
Because he's got the dimple. We'd
very
have to fix his
attractive.
hair, but he's got
I'm
the
fine with
dimples.
that. He just needs to darken his hair a little bit, and that would be perfectly
Yeah.
fine. So yeah, I think that would work just fine by me. No, um, I would have no problem with that one.
Yeah, you should put a poll out there. Who would you pick?
Good. Yes. Yeah, because for Juniper, and I think I give in this book, in the other book, like I have very strong visuals in my head for her. Thinking about particularly Amelie. Do you remember the movie
Yeah,
with
yeah.
her? And also, oh my goodness, I should have written myself down. It's in the book too. It's in this book where she describes herself with a haircut like
Yeah.
oh uh,
Because
the
she's got the bob with the
yes, yeah,
symmetrical.
the mysteries.
Oh,
They're
Mrs.
historical mysteries.
Fisher's.
Yes, yes, Mrs.
Yes.
Fisher. Yes, I know. It
Yeah.
just went right out of my head. But kind of a mix of both of them. I mean, they both have that
Yeah.
striking bob,
Yeah. Well, and
and
the fact that I'm pointing here like I'm tall. She would be here. Um, yeah,
she
because
is
she's tiny. She's like
petite.
5 foot.
I don't know why the two sisters are so petite, but they are. So they're little steamrollers.
Yeah. And
Pint-sized steamrollers. Mhm.
yeah, well, and I like that, when she gets surrounded and she's like, immediately dwarfed because,
Yeah, because she's by
I'm 4 inches
regular
taller than
standards.
her, and that happens to me all the time.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I'm not that much shorter than you. I mean, I think of 5'3" or so, and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, anyway.
All right. So, what is next for Juniper? Wait, this Telltale Homicide is coming out
November 19th.
November
So
19th,
it is
and then
now
what's
on
going to happen
pre-order.
after that?
And I am knee deep in book 3. In fact, it's kind of funny. I was writing what I thought was book 3, and then I realized I wanted a book in between. And and so I have plotted the new book 3, and what had been book 3 is now becoming book 4. So I promise it all makes sense. And so, yeah, so I've plotted book 3 now. My process is that I do a very elaborate draft plot. It's about 18,000 words or so. And then I go back. So it takes, while the books are written first person past tense, the plots are written for whatever reason, I don't know why, as third person present tense, and they're pure just like telling. Juniper walks into a room and talks with people about these things. There's no, it's just it's everything they tell you shouldn't be. It's tell not show, for writing. So there's no like dialogue, there's very little description. And so then I go back and I rewrite the whole story from the beginning as the actual story from Juniper's perspective and all of that. So I need to go back and do that. And then the next book will be out in mid-November 2025.
Perfect. And yeah, I don't do the third person present tense, but I do a full outline.
Mm-hmm.
Just really in depth. If a dialogue pops into my head, I just put it there in the outline.
Right. Yeah, sure. A little
Um,
a little snippet, a little thing.
but then,
Mine
as
will
you
also
said,
have in it like or maybe something else about this. Like it'll just have like little notes. There's something very freeing about doing this plot, like the draft plot, because like you don't feel like it has to be a finished product.
well,
So
and then because then your characters are like, no, I'm not doing that, and they just take on a life of their own.
very much do. It is.
Yours created an entire extra book, so that's excellent.
Well, that's actually what happened with book 2 also, was that originally I was going to write another one and then was like, no, I think I'm going to do that. Anyway, it's working out, but you're correct. They do take on a life of their own.
Mhm.
And they're like, you're alluding to various things that we should actually get into. I'm like, right. Which is why, like, so the first 5 books will be only like, I don't know what it is about my plotting where everything is on such a condensed timeline, but the way I'm going, I think book 1 is in June, maybe
Yeah,
July.
yeah,
So in the
it's
summer,
more
you
in
would
book
think I
two
would
this
know. I
form.
wrote it. And then book 2 is over Labor Day weekend, and then the whole run will be by Hanukkah. For the first 5 books. So it's like It's just poor Juniper. Like, she'll bounce back. She'll
Body
be
after
okay.
body after body after body.
Really is. There is a murder of the week. It's very Murder She Wrote everywhere poor Juniper goes. But she'll be all right. She's got a good support system.
Hope she will. She's fantastic. All right. So finally, where can our fans find you? Social media, websites, things of that nature.
So if you go to daphnesilver.com, www.daphnesilver.com. That's my hub and where you can join my newsletter, which if you join, you get a free short story in the Juniper Cozyverse called A Midsummer's Night Scheme. Yes, all of my books will have these punished titles, Crime and Parchment, The Telltale Homicide, and Summer's Night's Game, and stay updated. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Daphne Silver Books. And those are the main haunts. And of course, follow me on Amazon and BookBub as well. It's just a little me small shop. So I love to get to know the folks on social media, or you can email me if you get my newsletter, and we can chat. And I'm really grateful.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. And thank you for our listeners and viewers for joining us as well at Blackbird Writers Presents Author Interviews.